The secret to success is doing a lot of little things consistently over a long period of time. Like people see the headline, the 50, but they don't realize there was a decade that went into that.
It's easy to embrace hopelessness when things seem insurmountable. And yet it's actually just a matter of time until all of the elements come together for things to be all right. I mean, I believe that, most difficult situations will resolve themselves if you are persistent and if you don't give up entirely. And that's what I never did. I never gave up.
One of the things I've been telling myself and also thinking about a lot is, apart from the fact of learning, which we'll go into, is just that space of actually understanding that there may be a different route. See, we get so attached to having one route, one method, one way of working. We believe that there's only one pathway to where we want to be. There's this conveyor belt of things we have to do, whether it's, get a degree, find a partner, buy a house, play golf, whatever it is, like this conveyor belt of efficiency and productivity that we hear that becomes a part of our natural progression. And when that breaks apart, that's when we start to worry. That's when we start to think. But notice that actually it's a lot better when that happens earlier in life. See, regret has some really important roles. The first one is that it helps us make sense of the world from our perspective for one of the first times. See, most of us have spent our lives learning what's important to us based on maybe what families taught, what communities taught, what parents taught, what education taught, whatever it is. When you start regretting something, when you think you did something wrong, when you start thinking that I could have done something differently, you're making sense of the world from your perspective. It's crazy how powerful this is, right? You're starting to make sense of the world from your perspective. The second thing is, it allows you to avoid future negative behavior. If you knew you regretted something, I guarantee you, write it down right now, right? If you regret something, write it down right now, because it will teach you so much in the future. And you've got to write down the lesson you learned now. Otherwise, next time when you think you're making another tough decision, you're going to say to yourself, oh, what did I do last time? How did I not make myself regret that? And then you're going to be upset. You're going to regret that you didn't write it down. So write it down right now.
I always felt like an outsider because I knew of people, that were in the industry. I just didn't know how to get into it. And I remember going to cast different agents when I was 9 or 10 years old. I was rejected twice. I remember there was like this sort of cattle call of kids, and I lined up. It was like a prison, and I had this crazy breakdancing haircut from when I was breakdancing. And I kind of dressed in hip-hop clothing, and they went, yes, yes, went to me, went, nope, yes, yes, nope, yes,
Wow.
yes. And that was it. So I got rejected a couple times, and then I just kept asking and asking and asking. And I remember my dad saying, just stick with it. Someday you'll have your day. And then I came back, I think, 2 years later, and finally got an agent.
I think failure is the highway to success, and I know that sounds like a platitude, but what I try to do in all of my books and my presentations and my tweets is you cannot get to the mountaintop without taking a few missteps. And so a business that wants to win, you have to outfail your competition. And as human beings, failure is not a bad thing. Ask yourself, what's the opportunity from the failure, and get in the game, because when you get to the last hour of your last day, it will not be the failures you regret, it'll be all the risks you didn't take.
If we could celebrate every breath that we take, because nothing's a guarantee. If we could celebrate the breath and the exhale, which is being alive, without, oh, my car won't start. Oh, geez, the cat dropped dead. Hey, I think I need a lobotomy. There are things that are very, very important in life that we don't think about, And one of the most worrisome things that I went through for years is you're freaked out about your past. You're worried, you're scared to death of the future, and that's all you're thinking about. But the now doesn't exist, and I think that's a grave mistake that we make.
No matter what type of circumstances that you have been raised in or have experienced, you always have the ability to find a way out and create success for yourself. And I had to do that in my own life. My childhood was very rough. I grew up in South Central Los Angeles. I was a person who was in a single family home. It was my mother took care of 4 of us by herself, and she struggled, and we were on welfare. We didn't have money, and sometimes we didn't have food to eat. And we didn't know any different. But what the difference was when we would go past, at the time it was USC was close by us, and I'd see all the college students go towards the campus, and I thought to myself, where are they going? What are they doing? Why do they look different than the rest of the people that are in the group? And that always kept in the back of my head. And our mother said, whatever you do, in order to change your circumstance, you're gonna have to get an education. And so I kept that in the back of my head. No matter what, I had to educate myself. I had to get a degree. The people that I saw going to the school down the street, that's something I could do. And I had that vision. And it through a series of circumstances, it was very rough. When you are expected to succeed by your mentors or parents or teachers, when there is an expectation on your life to do well, at an early age, you adopt it, you address it, you adhere to it, you create it. But if you are never given that opportunity to know what you are capable of doing, if you are never given that word, that encouragement that says, do you know what, you can be good at mathematics, even though you failed algebra and geometry and calculus and chemistry, which I did, you can actually do well in mathematics. If there's not someone showing you your worth when you can't see it, you'll forever be looking in the mirror thinking that you are not worth what you are. And for me, every single time I went to that school across town, it was like around two hours away from where I was. Every time I would come back, it was like a wake-up call. I would go to this school that was like in a predominantly well-off area, and everyone had books and paper and really nice shoes. And I remember looking at this thinking, oh, I don't have any of that. And every time I would come back into my neighborhood, I would see the graffiti and I'd see the trash, and I thought to myself, what makes a difference? Why are there people here in this situation versus here in this situation? And every single day I would come back, and it came down to this. It was the thinking, how we think, how we look at situations, whether or not we see ourselves doing well and being successful, or versus if we see ourselves as a not successful person in an environment. Our thinking defines our life. And when we can take hold of our thought and see it for what it is and change it and transform it and change it to convert it into an energy that unleashes a brain power that allows us to change a situation, that, my friend, is how we change our lives, and that's how we change everyone else.
A great life is less about doing one brave act on a beautiful Sunday afternoon. It's more about what you do every single day. Right. Your days are your life in miniature. Take care of each day, and a great life will take care of itself. So if you were to achieve 5 little wins every single day at the end of 30 days, that's 150 little wins. At the end of 1 year, it's 1,850 little wins. So the Daily 5 is another tool to help you do that.